The road or home does not get any easier for the A's as Juan Soto and the 8-4 New York Mets come into town. And who better than to preview this series than Locked On Mets host Ryan Finkelstein today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am your host, Booney. One name, all passion. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard A's fan since 1981. This isn't just another A's podcast. This is the most informative and insightful show on the A's, period. We cover the A's every single day, breaking down games, delivering the latest team news, and giving you deep, thoughtful analysis you will not find anywhere else. If it's happening in Sacramento or in Las Vegas, we've got you covered. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And please hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. Huge show today as Ryan Finkelstein from Locked On Mets joins us today to preview the series between the A's and Mets this weekend. We'll get his predictions on how he thinks the three-game set will go. That's a bit later. Luis Severino is scheduled to pitch against his old team on either Saturday or Sunday. Severino pitched for the Mets in 2023 in their storybook run in 2023. And I want to get Ryan's opinion on what New York thought of Severino and did his departure surprise him. First, let's talk about the Mets. They had the most prized acquisition in all of baseball and are one of the favorites to, if not win the World Series, to get to the World Series. What does Ryan think of their start, and what can the A's expect from the Mets this weekend? Ryan Finkelstein, host of Locked On Mets. Big offseason for the Mets, obviously. 8-4 so far this year. They started off losing a series in Houston. Got 2 of 3, I believe. Who's their second series? And lately, you guys have been hot.
So they went to Miami. They won 2 of 3, swept the Blue Jays, then took the first 2 against the Marlins in New York. So they had a little 6-game winning streak there that just got snapped on Wednesday. But it's been pretty good baseball, mostly the pitching, honestly.
The pitching has been good. 8-4 right now. Alonso's tearing it up for you guys. What do you think of that negotiation with Alonso in the offseason? Did you want to see him back? Did Mets fans want to see him back?
Absolutely. I think I would say most Mets fans wanted to see him back. When you get a drawn-out negotiation like that, there eventually is going to be another side that a little fed up with the player. And so there was a probably loud minority of Mets fans that were ready to say goodbye. But I think most Mets fans were on the same page that they wanted Pete back. And ultimately, I think you're seeing exactly why. He's had a great start to the season. I think these are two sides that needed each other. It's that simple. There wasn't really another landing spot for Pete in free agency, and the Mets would have been in a real bad way if they didn't bring Pete back to be in the middle of that lineup behind Juan Soto. And so far, Pete's been carrying the offense. He's driven in a third of the runs the Mets have scored this year. So if they didn't have Pete Alonso, they would not be off to an 8-4 start.
Yeah, what's impressive is the 8-4 start, and Soto, I wouldn't say is struggling, but he's not Soto-ish, and Lindor is doing his usual April type of deal. But still, like I said, 8-4, and a lot of that is from the pitching. What's the expectations as far as coming into Sacramento, as far as the minor league ballpark? Has there been talk about it on the East Coast, or is it, or is Mets fans even going to tune into this series?
Well, they'll tune into the series. I'll tell you, I was playing a little bit of MLB The Show, and kind of looked at what the ballpark was like just from that, and it definitely felt like a bandbox there. Yeah. I'm curious what your take is on it, having watched it now for a couple of weeks now. How much different does it feel than your typical major league ballpark?
big time. I've gone to 2 of the games. I went to opening night against the Cubs, and I went to the day game against the Cubs as well. And going into it, everybody was saying, based on the Pacific Coast League, it's going to play neutral. And I'm like, no way. It's going to be 60-40% towards the hitter before the summer months. And when the summer months come around, it's going to be, Colorado part 2. It's yesterday though, but if you get into certain day games when the wind's blowing in, it can play preferably towards the pitchers, but we haven't seen that often. I mean, it's 5 of 6 games so far that have been extremely high scoring. You got a right field fence that looks like a little league fence. Literally, you just got to pop over the fence. Kid for the Cubs barely clicked one over Suzuki for a bomb, and they laid it onto us pretty good. But you're gonna see a lot of home runs. You're gonna see a lot of runs. It's gonna be definitely favoring the hitter. It depends if the wind's gonna blow. The weekend the weather is supposed to be calm. The wind's not supposed to be going too hard, but we'll see how that goes. But I see a lot of runs happening, and I saw that coming into the season. And of course, you're going to have your days where, like yesterday, the wind's going to be coming in. You won't see much, but it's going to be a lot of runs. It's a minor league ballpark. It's a minor league ballpark for sure. And when you got major league ball players playing in that type of deal, yeah, it's a lot. And also the fences, besides left field, they're really, really small, so it doesn't take a lot to get them out. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I figured that I think a lot of Mets fans have been circling this series for a team that has had a couple of good games offensive, but hasn't really hit their stride, as like this could be a series where the Mets can maybe get going offensively because of that ballpark. I think Juan Soto's only hit 1 home run, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 1 home run.
The first game of the season. So you got to imagine he might be licking his chops a little bit to leave that short porch in right field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There were some expectations obviously going on with the A's this year, and I based a lot of that. I mean, I guaranteed we were going to win the West, and a lot of it had to do with how we played in July and August last year. And one of those series was taking 2 of 3 in New York last year against a very good Mets team that was chasing down a playoff spot. And we haven't been that squad right now. I mean, Langoliers, Rooker, and who's the other big guy I'm missing? Butler combined 4 of 36 against the Padres. We're not going to get it done. So it's one of those deals. We took 1 out of the 3. I felt like we could have won the series, but at the same time, considering you look at the numbers, it's like, how do we win 1? So it's been a disappointing start to the year. It doesn't get easier for us as the Mets come into town. Give me a little bit on game 1 starter, Griffin Canning.
So Griffin Canning, came over obviously from the Angels last year. He led the American League in earned runs allowed, which kind of twofold on that. One, shows how ineffective he was, but also shows how available he was because he threw over 170 innings. So I thought the big reason why the Mets got him was because you just had a fully stretched out starting pitcher. What we're seeing is they really valued his slider, and all of a sudden we're seeing a big uptick in slider usage. He's kind of abandoned the curveball. So he's pitching backwards a little bit more than he has in the past, where he's throwing some sliders early in counts to steal strikes. And it's a 3-pitch mix with his slider, changeup, and fastball that so far has worked for him pretty well. So I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen. I'm not saying he's a frontline starter, but he does feel like a quality back-end guy for the Mets and someone that can go out there and put together 5 good innings and hand that over to a Mets bullpen that's been great to start the season.
Yeah, no question. We're countering with J.P. Sears, and what's kind of ironic on that is that J.P. Sears came into the A's in the Frankie Montas trade. So right now he's our best pitcher. Of course, there's Severino Springs, but it has been J.P. Sears as far as how he looked coming from last year and so forth. I wanted to ask you, what is New York? What's the rest of the country? Because obviously we're in the West Coast here in Sacramento, where it seems like we're in our own little box. What are the thoughts on the A's, the stereotype as far as ownership leaving Oakland, playing in a minor league ballpark, Is it considered a joke? Is it, you know what I mean? What's the thoughts in the rest of the on the East Coast as far as the A's go?
I think a lot of people are up in arms last year about the A's and the ownership situation in the ballpark, and I think that's gone away entirely. And I do think that until they're settled into Vegas, it
Right?
might take some time for people to really be accepting of the A's not being. They're just in this limbo right now, right?
Sure.
We don't even know what to call them. Like, do I call They've
Yeah.
said we don't want to be associated with Sacramento, so we're not the Sacramento A's. But then you're just the A's, you're just the Athletics, and I feel like in some ways that even draws more attention to it. So I just think it's kind of a limbo right now, where until they are actually moving into that ballpark in Vegas, I think there's always going to be kind of a side-eye look of, all right, well, what's really going on there, and it's a team that stands out for those ownership concerns and everything else. But ultimately, I also think for now it's kind of a novelty, right? Like, it's kind of cool to go to this ballpark that's only going to be in existence for Major League Baseball for a couple years and see what a game looks like over there. I think there's going to be a lot of fans, especially when it's a team like the Mets that doesn't play the A's a lot. And this is the one shot to see them. Where I wouldn't be surprised if the ballpark was packed with a lot of Mets fans that thought it'd be a cool trip to take this year also.
It's been more of the opposing fans so far in Sacramento than there has been A's fans. The biggest mistake ownership has made, I've gone through this so many times with regard to whose fault it was and so forth. Not enough fault was blamed on the government as far as Oakland goes. But with that being said, Fisher and ownership has brought a lot of the criticism on themselves. And a good example of that is the Sacramento name, right? I mean, when you're just thinking of it, it's like, okay, they're playing the Sacramento A's. I mean, he went out of his way to say, we're not taking Sacramento. We'll just be known as the Athletics. So in that sense, he's bringing a lot of that attention to himself, and it makes no sense to me. I feel a lot of the play on the field is being hurt by that. The A's are 5-8. They play in a minor league ballpark. They don't have a fan base. They don't move to Las Vegas for another 3 years. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of talking about the A's, and I don't know what to talk about today. I just have zero energy, and I really don't know what to do. Hang on a second. Just ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Exactly what I need. One scoop should do the trick. It is Juan Soto and the Mets. Fixed. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they are free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you are recovering after a workout or need an energy boost when you're about to play the Mets in Sacramento, their grass-fed wheat protein and pre-workout delivers real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Severino is due to pitch on Saturday or Sunday. We don't know yet, just because the fifth starter that we've had, Joey Estes, got sent down. We had a day off yesterday. So we don't know if we're going to – Kotze hasn't announced if he's going to replace the fifth spot or just move up the rotation, considering we had a day off yesterday. Severino had 1 year. He's played in New York his whole career, but only 1 year with the Mets. And he was probably the ace of that staff, or the number one guy of that staff during that run. What did New York think of Severino? Were you disappointed he left? Or was it like, hey, for that much money, you got to go?
So Luis Severino last year, I think in the early months, he kind of was the ace of the Mets. And then Sean Manaea kind of took that mantle and ran with it. Obviously, you guys are very familiar with Manaea. And I think basically it kind of came down to a situation where the Mets were only going to maybe bring one of them back, and they made the choice that it was Manaea. Now, Manaea ends up having an oblique strain in spring training, and all of a sudden you're wondering if Severino might have been the better choice, but that's all operating with hindsight. I thought Severino was really solid last year. I thought it was a great deal for him that he got with the A's.
Yeah.
And I think from a Mets perspective, they were pretty happy to collect the comp pick. Basically sign him for a 1 year deal, get 180 innings out of him, have him make some playoff starts, and then collect a pick. It ended up being a great signing for the Mets. But I'm also, at times thinking like, yeah, it might not have been the worst guy to bring back when you see the way he looked in his first start with the A's. He clearly still has that frontline potential when he's right. And I think what we saw last year is even when he's not right, he's going to be a quality starting pitcher in the big leagues for some time. I think he really has found it. Getting a sinker last year was really a big pitch for him to just really, be able to pitch to contact more. And I think he should be, if nothing else, he should make, all of his starts hopefully for the next 3 years and be a solid arm for the A's.
In game 2, it's supposed to be Peterson. And now I understood Peterson got a little banged up in his last start. Is he supposed to start or still up in the air?
So he is supposed to start, I believe. It was it looks, when you see the trainer come out and the guy kind of looks weird, you're automatically thinking the worst. But after the game, they said it was nausea. So assuming that whatever sickness or illness he had, it's past him now. I'm sure he'll be on the mound and should be. He's kind of at this point the Mets' most consistent starter, because you have Kodai Senga coming off a year where he didn't pitch much, and then you have Clay Holmes making the transition into the rotation, and then a lot of unproven guys or more back-end guys with Canning, Tyler McGill. So David Peterson, coming off a great season last year, is kind of the one guy in this rotation that you went into the year kind of know what you were going to get, and so far he's been as advertised.
Yeah, no, I bet. Talk about Senga a little bit. Right now, it is scheduled on Sunday to be Senga and Severino. We don't know if he's going to move Severino up to Saturday. Senga's coming in. I mean, when I've seen him, he looks lights out every single time. He's tough, throws a lot of pitches, seems to have command issues. What's the expectations on Senga?
So Kodai Senga, in 2023, it took him about a month to really get going. And then once he did, I mean, he was as good as pretty much anyone in the National League. He was outstanding. I think so far we've seen flashes of Kodai Senga being that guy again. Last time out, he didn't have the ghost fork, which is his patented pitch. So he wasn't getting a bunch of swing and miss. And yet he was still able to go up against a pretty weak Marlins lineup and, pitch to contact and get through 5 innings without any real troubles. I'm still waiting to see the Kodai Senga that strikes out 11 and pitches like 6 shutout innings. But it might take a couple more starts for him to really get going. He is definitely a perfectionist, where if his mechanics aren't exactly perfectly right, he can lose the strike zone. He might not have that swing and miss pitch. But so far, so good. The fact that he's on the mound and taking the ball is the biggest hurdle for him. And I think once we start to get, mid-season, weather warms up a little bit, I think Kodai Senga is going to go back to being the dominant guy we saw a few years ago.
Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite players' props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. You guys have a prospect, or I mean, I don't even consider him a prospect anymore, but Brett Beatty has gotten a lot of criticism. What's your thoughts on him? It's somebody actually I wanted the A's to trade for in the offseason. I like Beatty a lot. I still think he has a big upside to him. Obviously, we don't know what happened or if that was even discussed. He seems to be getting tons of criticism in New York. Is that justified? Is his time past, or is it unfair to a point?
It's tough because I've been someone that's tried to be a real big Brett Beatty supporter, and he had an outstanding spring training where you thought he maybe finally turned a corner. But there's some players that you see, and it might be more common in New York, it might not be, but that just come up to the big leagues, and mentally you see there's a hurdle there. Unfortunately, Brett Beatty, that certainly seems to be the case. He couldn't have gotten off to a worse start offensively.
Yeah.
And he's running on borrowed time because Jeff McNeil should be back by the end of this month, and
Right.
he'll resume that spot at second base. And the Mets will have to make a decision between two of the young players. They have Beatty and they have Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna is a right-hander, and McNeil bats left-handed. So Acuna is a more natural fit. I think Acuna probably needs to go down to the minor leagues more. I think there's more he could gain from being in AAA. Where Brett Beatty, I think he'll go down to AAA, he'll hit, but it won't really tell us anything. This is a guy that needs to do it in the big leagues. And I think if he had an opportunity, let's say the A's did trade for him, I think it'd be a fantastic fit for Brett Beatty because I think getting out of the limelight in New York, getting a chance to potentially play every day, I think he would start to turn the corner and show that he can be an above average big league hitter. But this year, it has not been great for him. The last game, he made a crucial error that cost the Mets a couple of runs. So it's definitely been a tough start for Beatty. And a lot of Mets fans are joking around about it, but this is a guy that, has the good minor league numbers and has been good in spring training. And hasn't been in the big leagues.
I saw that.
Yeah, so everyone's saying this is Brett Beatty's weekend. You got 3 games in a minor league ballpark. See if you can get him going. But I think it's going to take more than just a couple games in Sacramento to get Beatty right. He's got to really work on that confidence.
So he's in a straight platoon right now with Acuna, lefty against lefty and righty.
Pretty much. There has been a couple starts where they've given Acuna the nod against a right-hander, but I would say, assuming you got 3 right-handers going for the A's, I'd expect Beatty to be in there for at least 2 of the 3 games.
We're gonna have right now for sure one. Sears is going on Friday. If he moves Severino up to Saturday, then we'll have Springs going, so it'll be 2. But I don't know what he's going to do with the 5th spot. It could be lefty, righty. It could be Sears, Spence, and Severino. But again, they haven't announced what they're going to do with that 5th spot yet. We'll see. I mean, pitching's been an issue for us coming into the season. It was a big issue. Off season was an issue, and then we got fooled and tricked a little bit with that opening 4-game set in Seattle. All of a sudden, everyone was like, oh my God, look at us. And it was more Seattle than us, but we'll see what happens. Give me a little prediction, Ryan. 2 out of 3. We got Sears and who do you Canning on Friday night. What do you like?
I like the Mets, of course.
You like the Mets to sweep?
I don't know about sweep. Sweeping is tough, especially in a ballpark like that where the Mets have thrown the ball so well that I do wonder in this ballpark if there's a game that might get away from them. It's the bullpen has just been lights out for the Mets. So at some point, those guys are almost
struggled though. No,
who struggled? Diaz. He just had a rough game. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it was kind of the right time to do it. The Mets were losing 2-0. They were sort of getting him some work before the off day.
Sure.
And he had a brutal outing. Gave up 3 runs, 2-run homer at the end of that inning. So definitely a rough one for Edwin Diaz. He still hasn't quite looked like pre-injury Edwin Diaz ever since, but he'll go through stretches where he's locked down again. So yeah, I think like I said, I'm predicting a series win. I don't know if I'll go out on a limb and say series sweep.
Gotcha. I think JP Sears is going to get the one against Canning on Friday night. I think Peterson's lights out. I think he's just so good. We might not get a hit. I like him a lot. I think the Mets are going to handle their business on Saturday. And if Severino goes on Sunday against Senga, I think he's going to come up big against his old team. And the A's are going to be pretty jacked up to play the Mets. I'm going to go out on a huge limb and say A is going to get 2 of 3. So, but hey, I've been wrong before.
I will say that if it is rubber match final game, Severino Senga, that's about as good of an outcome for the series as far as the viewer getting to watch a really good series if we get to that, because that should be a really good pitching matchup. There'll obviously be, like you said, a lot of buzz there with Sevy facing his former team.
Right.
So I think that could be a pretty good outcome for everybody as far as just watching a good series.
For Mets fans, for you, look out for the first inning. The A's have allowed in the first inning, in their 6 games, 3, 6, 10, 13 runs.
Wow.
6 games in the first inning. So look out for the first inning. That's been awful for the A's, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. Mets coming to town. We'll see what's up. Appreciate your time, Ryan.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.